You know, sometimes the really interesting stuff isn't in those huge, obvious markets. It's tucked away in these specific, essential niches that kind of support the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Like the one we're looking at today.
Exactly. We're doing a deep dive into the global market for Rotary dental laboratory sealers.
That's right. We've got some really specific market data forecasts, the kind of detail that lets you really get under the hood of a specialized field.
Yeah, this isn't the flashy side of dentistry maybe, but it's fundamental, right,
Yeah.
for making quality dental work.
Totally fundamental. You can't do high-quality restorations without it.
Okay, so our mission today,
Mhm.
take this data you shared, unpack it, see where things stand now, where they're heading.
And really zero in on the key numbers.
Right, paint a clear picture. We'll look at the global value, then break it down by region, by country, see where the growth is really kicking in.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with that big global picture the source gives us. So back in 2021, this market, Rotary dental laboratory sealers, it was valued at just over $1 billion. $1,056.4 million to be exact.
Okay, so $1 billion. Decent starting point.
Mm.
And it's moving upwards from there.
Oh, definitely. Steadily.
Yeah.
The projection for 2025 takes it to $1,338.7 million. But the longer view, looking out to 2033, that's where it gets really striking. They're anticipating $2,149.8 million.
Wow. Okay, so crossing that 2 billion mark,
Yeah,
effectively doubling its 2021 size in, what, 12 years?
pretty much, yeah.
That kind of growth, especially in a specialized field like this, that's quite telling.
It really is. And the overall compound annual growth rate, the CAGR for that whole period, 2021 to 2033,
Yeah.
it's projected at 6.1%.
6.1%. So that's not like explosive boom and bust, but solid, steady expansion.
Exactly. That 6.1% isn't just a number. It shows there's this consistent underlying demand pushing the whole market forward year after year.
Okay, so the global tide is definitely rising.
Mhm.
But, you know, where are the strongest currents?
Mhm.
We need that regional breakdown.
Right.
The source points to North America as a key player. What's the story there?
North America is definitely significant. Its value back in 21 was $370.8 million.
Okay.
Forecasted to hit $462.6 million by 2025 and then $723 million by 2033.
So still substantial growth. What's the CAGR for the region?
It comes in at 5.7%. So healthy growth, but just a touch below that global average we saw.
Interesting. And within North America, the source breaks down the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
Yeah.
Is it pretty even growth across the board?
Not quite. The U.S. being the biggest chunk, obviously.
Yeah.
It's projected to go from $251.4 million in 2021 up to $470.2 million by 2033. It's a 5.4% CAGR. Solid, like you'd expect from a big, mature market.
Okay, 5.4% for the U.S. Canada's got a higher CAGR, 6.4%. Growing from $80.5 million to $176.3 million.
Yep.
Mexico, even stronger, 6.6% CAGR.
Wow, 6.6%. Moving from $38.9 million up to $76.6 million. So yeah, while the U.S. market is way bigger in absolute terms,
Right.
Canada and Mexico are actually expanding at a faster rate, percentage-wise.
So even within one region, different stories playing out, that higher growth in Canada and Mexico could be expanding dental infrastructure, maybe, better access, or just faster uptake of newer tech, perhaps.
Exactly. The data doesn't spell it out, but it definitely gives you clues, opens up those questions about the underlying dynamics.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic. Europe,
Yeah.
also a big piece of the pie, right?
A very substantial share, yes. The European numbers, $310.6 million back in 2021, rising to $387 million in 2025, and the projection for 2033 is $611.6 million.
DJR for Europe.
5.9%. So a bit stronger than North America, is actually closer to that global average.
Okay, 5.9%. And Europe's obviously diverse, too.
Yeah.
Do we see similar variations between countries there?
Oh, for sure. You've got places like the UK showing a particularly strong growth, 6.9% CAGR.
Higher than a regional average, then.
Yep. Going from $30.4 million to $67.8 million. Germany's also strong, 6.4% CAGR. That's $54.7 million, growing to $112.9 million.
So the UK is a definite bright spot there, percentage-wise. What about some of the other major economies listed? France, Italy?
France is projected at 5.4% CAGR. That's $40.1 million to $74 million. Italy, 5.6%. $29.2 million to $53.5 million.
Yeah.
Spain's right there, too, 5.5% CAGR. $25.5 million to $47.2 million.
And Russia?
Russia's growth in this data is a little slower, 5.1% CAGR, still growing obviously from $49.4 million to $12.3 million.
And what about that rest of Europe category? Sometimes that hides some interesting trends.
It does here, actually. It shows a strong collective CAGR, 6.6%.
Really? Higher than Germany or France?
Yep. Moving from $36 million up to $80.2 million. It suggests there's pretty robust growth happening maybe in less saturated markets across the rest of the continent.
Okay, so we've got North America and Europe as these big, established, steadily growing regions.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
America and Europe as these big, established, steadily growing regions. But the source really highlighted one region for its pace, didn't it? That's Asia-Pacific.
That's the one. Asia-Pacific is flagged as the fastest-growing region globally for these sealers.
Right. What are the numbers?
It started at $260.9 million in 2021, expected to jump to $341.6 million by 2025, and the forecast for 2033 is $586.7 million.
And the CAGR reflects that speed.
Absolutely. It leads the pack at a really robust 7%.
7% annually. That's significant acceleration. What's driving that? Which countries are key?
Well, a huge part of it is China, just dominant in the region.
Okay.
Projected to go from $103.1 million in 2021 all the way up to $238 million by 2033. That's with a 7.3% CAGR. So massive volume and strong percentage growth.
Right. 7.3% on that scale is huge.
Yeah.
Didn't the source also single out India?
Yes, definitely. India shows the highest CAGR in the whole region, actually one of the highest globally in this report, 7.7%.
Wow, 7.7%.
Yeah. It's forecast to grow from $35.5 million up to $87.5 million by 2033. That's not just growth, it's really explosive expansion from its current base.
That is remarkable for India.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes about maybe rapid infrastructure development, growing middle class, access to care. Something's driving that hard.
For sure. There's serious momentum there.
What about other key players in Asia-Pacific? Japan, Korea, Australia.
Japan shows solid growth, 6.4% CAGR. That's $23 million to $48.7 million. South Korea and Australia are, interestingly, on very similar tracks. Both have a 6.8% CAGR.
Yeah.
South Korea growing from $19.8 million to $42.6 million, and Australia from $21.4 million to $46.8 million.
And Southeast Asia as a whole.
Also very strong.
Yeah.
A high 7.2% CAGR for that subregion, going from $11.7 million to $27.8 million.
So really, Asia-Pacific's leadership is broad-based. You've got China delivering the massive volume increase,
Right.
and then India leading that percentage charge, but with really strong support from South Korea, Australia, Southeast Asia.
That's a perfect summary. China and India are the big engines, absolutely, but
Okay.
the whole region is contributing to that top-line 7% growth.
Okay. The source also briefly touched on South America and the Middle East and Africa. How do they fit in? Still growing.
Yep, positive growth there too, contributing to the global trend, generally at slightly lower CAGRs than the leading regions we've discussed.
Right.
So in South America, you see Brazil and Colombia both pegged at a solid 6% CAGR.
Okay.
Brazil from $21.4 million up to $43 million. Colombia from $5 million to just under $10 million, $9.9 million by 2033. Peru's a bit more modest, projected at 5% CAGR.
Got it. And the Middle East and Africa, similar story.
Pretty similar picture, yeah.
Yeah.
Positive expansion. Egypt is projected at 5.5% CAGR, $3.8 million to $7.6 million. Turkey at 5.3%, $4.1 million to $8.2 million.
Oh.
The data did note the rest of Middle East region specifically has a slightly lower CAGR, around 4.3%, growing from $13.8 million to $25.2 million.
Okay. So growth is happening pretty much everywhere,
Well,
but the pace really varies, which I guess brings us back to the why. What are the fundamental reasons the source gives for this steady global expansion?
it boils down to three main drivers, according to the source. First, just simple increasing demand from dental labs globally.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
More people, more complex dental needs.
Exactly. More lab work means more need for these sealers.
Mhm.
Second is technological advancements in the sealers themselves. Better materials, maybe improved precision, new ways to use them.
Okay, innovation playing a role.
And third, and this one probably has a huge impact on those longer-term forecasts, is the growing aging population worldwide.
Ah, the demographic factor.
Right. As people live longer, the need for ongoing dental care, including things like crowns, bridges, implants, all requiring lab work, just keeps increasing.
That third point really connects some dots, doesn't it? You see places with aging populations like Japan or Germany still showing solid growth, even if not explosive. But then markets like India or Southeast Asia, maybe younger overall, but with rapidly growing middle classes gaining access, they show that massive percentage growth.
It really highlights how these big demographic shifts and economic factors weave together. The aging trend is a global push, but then local things like, economic development, healthcare investment, how quickly tech is adopted, that shapes where and how fast the growth actually happens.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this for you, the listener. We've looked at a niche market, rotary dental lab sealers, worth over $1 billion in 2021.
And on track to more than double, hitting over $2 billion by 2033. That steady global growth, that 6.1% CAGR, that's a key takeaway.
Definitely. And right now, North America and Europe are the biggest pieces of that pie, showing consistent, solid expansion.
But when you look forward, the data really points to Asia-Pacific as the growth engine. You've got China providing huge volume,
Right.
and India showing that absolutely explosive percentage growth, driving that leading regional CAGR of 7%.
Yeah, this deep dive really underlines how global trends, aging, technology impact even these very specific, maybe overlooked markets.
Which does raise an interesting question, maybe something for you to think about after listening.
Yeah.
Given these different growth rates we're seeing and knowing the impact of aging in tech, where do you think future innovation in these sealers might come from? Will it be the regions with the fastest growth and maybe the most rapidly increasing demand, like parts of Asia?
Or maybe the more established, mature markets like Europe or North America, where R&D infrastructure is already deep.
Exactly. Where will that intersection of need, market momentum, and innovation capability be strongest in the years ahead?
It definitely makes you connect the numbers to potential future strategies and developments.
That's the idea, moving from the data points to what they might actually imply.
It certainly does. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly dynamic world of rotary dental laboratory sealers.
Okay, let's jump into a deep dive today. We're looking at something maybe a bit behind the scenes in dentistry, but really important, rotary dental laboratory sealers.
That's right. We've gone through quite a bit of material, including some specific market research, to really unpack what's happening with these machines.
Yeah, these are the devices in dental labs, right? The ones making sure things like prosthetics, impression materials, all that sensitive stuff.
Exactly. Making sure it's packaged completely airtight, no contamination, absolutely critical.
And the sources really stress these aren't, your average bag sealers. It's about precision, reliability, speed too.
Speed, yes, but also reducing human error, keeping that quality high. The research actually calls it a key operational edge for labs.
An operational edge.
So think of it like the very last vital step before something gets shipped out to the dentist or, eventually to a patient.
Gotcha. So our goal here is to give you a quick hint.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Or, eventually to a patient.
Gotcha. So our goal here is to give you a quick handle on this market, what's driving it, the roadblocks, and where it's headed.
Precisely. Giving you the shortcut to understanding these sealers.
All right, so let's get into the why. Why are labs adopting these more? What are the big drivers pushing growth based on the sources?
Well, one of the biggest drivers highlighted is this demand for precision and efficiency. It's just constantly increasing in dentistry.
How do the rotary sealers help there specifically?
See, unlike just, clamping something shut manually, these rotary ones use a continuous motion, consistent heat, consistent pressure, all the way across the seal.
Ah, okay.
So it really streamlines the whole process. You get rapid sealing, but more importantly, it's repeatable, consistent every time.
And that consistency is key
For maintaining the integrity of, say, expensive crowns or bridges or those detailed impression materials. You can't have them compromised during shipping or storage.
Right. So it's the consistency from the rotary part that's the real advantage. Not just faster, but reliably better sealing.
That's it, exactly. And tied to that is another big driver, the boom in cosmetic and restorative dentistry.
Things like veneers, implants, crowns, that whole area.
Yeah, massive growth. So labs are scaling up production. They need packaging that's secure, reliable, and frankly, fast enough to keep up. Rotary sealers fit that need perfectly.
Ensures things arrive looking and functioning perfectly.
Correct. And then the third piece, which you might expect, is the rise of digital labs, CAD/CAM workflows.
Right. I was wondering how that played in. More automation.
Absolutely. These modern labs embrace automation, and rotary sealers slot right into that. They minimize manual handling, which is huge for clean room protocols, keeping contaminants out.
Less touching equals less risk?
Basically, yes. And they integrate well with those digital workflows, making the whole operation more controlled, more repeatable from the design software right through to the final sealed package.
Okay, so strong reasons to adopt them, but like anything, there are downsides. What are the challenges, the restraints the sources point out?
The biggest one, mentioned again and again, is the initial cost, the price tag on these machines.
The investment.
Yeah, it's significant. For smaller labs, maybe mid-sized ones, or even just in markets where budgets are tighter, that upfront cost is a real hurdle, even if they see the long-term payoff.
That makes total sense. Capital equipment is always a big decision.
It really is. And connected to that, there's sometimes just limited awareness or maybe familiarity.
Meaning labs just stick with what they know.
Sort of. Some traditional practices, smaller setups, they
Yeah.
might still be using older manual sealing methods, maybe less precise ones. And that just slows down the shift to newer tech, like rotary sealers.
Inertia is a powerful thing.
It can be. And then, of course, there's maintenance.
Always a factor with precision equipment, right?
Exactly. Calibration, upkeep,
Mm-hmm.
it adds an operational layer. Labs need decent technical support available, otherwise, the performance can slip over time. Kind of defeats the purpose.
Okay, so cost, awareness, maintenance, those are the main drags. But looking forward, where's the tech going? What are the future trends?
One really interesting trend is more tech integration within the sealers themselves.
Like what? Smarter machines?
Yeah, basically. We're seeing things like touchscreen interfaces, settings you can program for different types of packaging materials.
So you can fine-tune it.
Right. Improves efficiency, maybe even saves on materials because you're using the exact right settings. They're just becoming more adaptable tools.
Smarter tools for a specific job. And I bet sterility is a bigger focus now, too.
Oh, absolutely. Especially post-COVID, that focus is definitely heightened. Rotary sealers are crucial for properly sealing sterilization pouches.
The ones used for instruments and things.
Exactly. Helps labs meet those tougher hygiene standards and regulations much more easily. It's pretty non-negotiable now.
Makes sense. Patient safety is paramount. Any other big trends emerging?
The last major one the sources highlight is this push towards portability and accessibility.
You mean smaller sealers?
Smaller, more compact units, yeah. The idea is maybe they could be used not just in the main lab, but potentially chairside, right there in the clinic.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So a dentist could potentially package something right there.
Potentially. It could mean quicker, on-the-spot packaging. Might cut down turnaround times, and it just broadens where these devices can actually be useful beyond the lab bench.
That chairside idea, that feels like it could really shift workflows, couldn't it?
It really could. Change how materials are handled right after they're made or sterilized.
So wrapping this up then, it's a niche market, definitely, but seems to have real momentum. Driven by these needs for precision, the digital shift, cosmetic boom.
Definitely momentum, even with those hurdles like cost and maybe some labs still needing to catch up on awareness.
Yeah, it's a great example of how even background tech, stuff you don't normally see, keeps evolving to meet new demands in healthcare.
Absolutely. Constant innovation, even in these specialized areas.
Okay, so here's the final thought I want to leave you with from this dive. Think about this. How might these seemingly small upgrades, a sealer getting smarter or more portable or hyper-focused on keeping things sterile, how might that subtly change the quality, the speed, maybe even how accessible the dental care you get is next time you're sitting in that chair? Something to consider.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.